So welcome back everybody. We are continuing and hopefully finished tonight the 35th chapter, which we gave quite a few classes on it. Again, another very crucial and essential dynamic which the Alter Rebbe reveals or demonstrates over here in this very chapter, naturally in the important context of Avodas Hashem, of the reason why, again explaining that Yanukah, which notes the importance of oiling the wick, and the oil being precisely Torah mitzvahs as opposed to the light of the neshama itself. Naturally this is brief and cryptic, these past few words, cryptic but again brief. So as we always do, we mention, especially for our newcomers, that you could always find this very class in length, and again in this case this explaining this above mentioned in the previous classes on this very chapter in the tanyaonline.com website, or start with even this very website and the link box Tanya, where you could scroll down and you'll be able to see the previous classes, and again focusing on this page, explaining this which has just been noted. But the advantage of the TanyaOnline.com website, even though it's again hosted by the same honorable hosts, yet the advantage is that you have the text there. You could follow easily the text there as well, easier access to the previous classes with the text naturally. So you could definitely look there and see what we mean regarding again the oiling the wick in order to maintain the Hashchina, the light, the divine presence which resides over the Yid. And in the last class, again the oil being precisely Torah mitzvahs, but in the last class we dealt with this which the Alter Rebbe in the last two classes points out, that when we say Torah mitzvahs, Torah itself, in other words, not enough that Torah we learn, but it has to be in the mitzvahs we fulfill, because the point is that the Eir HaShechina should reside not only on part of us, but on the entire Guf Adam, on the entire body of man, on the entire system, the entire structure of man. And while the Torah, when one learns, so then is more inner, more qualitative levushim, garments are involved, and which is machshava dibur, thought to speech, as opposed to mitzvahs, the maisa, the kecha maisa, which you have the entire investment, or the final investment, or the important investment of the nefesh bahamis, of the animal soul, the soul which vitalizes the human being, which again that is the animal soul, is explained in the very first chapter of Tanya. And that is involved in the mitzvah, and therefore when the person actually does the mitzvah, the body which is right now performing the mitzvah, we gave an example, tefillin, there's movement, there's the energy of the body which is expressed at the time when the person puts on the tefillin. He puts it on his physical hand, he straps the straps in front with his with the opposite hand, doing the mitzvah. There's energy flowing into that hand, which is making the hand a live hand. In order to actualize the mitzvah, it has to be alive, and that's the way it can take the straps and move along and strap the opposite hand with the tefillin. So there's the life and energy coming at that very moment from the nefesh bahamis, from the animal soul, entering into the kecha maisa, the garment of action, and that is at that point when the person does the mitzvah. So it's his action, it's the energy which penetrates the action of man, which is right now transformed into godliness. Meaning to say, at that point, that becomes this Maisa Mitzvah, becomes the oil which maintains the Shechina, again in every part of the wick, which is the Guf Adam. And in this case, there is where there is the greatest investment of the Nefesh Bahamis, of the animal vitalizing soul. I say together, animal vitalizing soul, as you can say again, see in the first chapter, that it's one. The Nefesh Bahamis is the Nefesh Chayunis. So this is which is being transformed, and again you have the entire body involved. Again, every mitzvah of another limb, or in general, when a person is involved in mitzvahs, it's his guf, which is the main energy of the. When you want to identify the energy of the nefesh chayunis coming into the vitalizing animal, vitalizing soul, which comes from, which enters the body. Where is it? Where do you see it expressed more, or more energetic, or more involved in the, or a greater part of it is the chayis haguf. The physical, as opposed to machshava dibur, it is more the superior qualities. You don't see so much even though there is also the transformation of the machshava and dibur and thought and speech, which is associated with also coming and receiving its energy from the nefesh chayunis abahamis, this animal vitalizing soul. But yet, it comes to full state of expression or fruition is when it vitalizes the physicality, the very physicality, which is the kecha maisa, the body, the kecha maisa, the more inferior lavush garment, which is the maisa, the kecha of action, which exists within man, and therefore, then at that point, when the person fulfills the mitzvah, so everything at that point, when he does the mitzvah, there's a complete transformation of the guf, again, this psila, this wick being consumed into the Eir HaShechina, into the light of the Shechina. Again, that's the importance of mitzvahs even over Torah. Again, you can see in this probably second to last class from this 2 weeks ago. And then last week, the Alter Rebbe, we pointed out, the Alter Rebbe asked the question that when we're saying the words time and again, transformation, Alter Rebbe stops for a moment and says, transformation? Didn't we establish that the one who does the ones the service which is aligned with transformation of the animal soul is the service of the tzaddik, not the Beinani. We know the Beinani is his Yetzer Hara, his Nefesh Bahamis. Even the day he fulfills a mitzvah, even the day he learns Torah, the Nefesh Bahamis, the animal soul, is completely in full tact. Yetzer Hara is in full tact. The Nefesh Bahamis is in full tact, and that makes him the Beinani. Despite it's in full tact, and it sends its signals and temptations. Yet it never enters into thought, speech, and action. It never enters into one's machshava, dibur, maisa, or maisa. Do that way from the akal lakovid, from the easier to the more difficult. It never enters into action. Never implements this message of the nefesh bahamis of the animal soul, never speaks the words with the animal soul, tempts it to speak, persuades it, tries to persuade to speak by sending the signals, the enjoyment of lashon hara, anything which again is associated with speech, and conversely, it doesn't allow it to be laid back when it comes to fulfilling a mitzvah associated with speech, like learning Torah and so on. And so too when it comes to machshava, also the nefesh bahamis, the animal soul also sends its signal. And actually the real challenge when it comes, as we all know it, when it comes to thought, when it comes to machshava, and even then, that's what makes him a Beinani, that he never accepts the moment he realizes it's inappropriate machshava, inappropriate thought, he doesn't allow it to enter into his machshava. Again, this is the definition of the Beinani, because when one allows any machshava, even a machshava, even a thought, deliberately, willingly, despite as a thought which Torah prohibits, to entertain one's mind with, he's no more a Beinani, he's a Rasha. Now here we're dealing with a Beinani, so as great as he is, that his thought, speech, and action is 100% aligned with the Ratzon Hashem, the will and desire of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, yet what makes him a Beinani and differentiates him from the tzaddik is the fact that he didn't transform his nefesh bahamis. His nefesh bahamis is in full tact and full potency and force, presents itself with its full potency and force. Yet he remains a Beinani because he never allows it to enter into machshava dibur maisa, thought, speech, and action. But transformation, that v'havtas Hashem v'kecha v'chol v'chol v'shnei tzerecha, that the Yetzer Hara becomes like a Yetzer Tov, like again, and that's the point of Shnei Tzerecha, to love HaKadosh Baruch Hu with the Yetzer Hara, means the nefesh bahamis, and the Lashon and Zohar, that it can become a Yetzer Tov, like Dr. Rebbe deals with and discusses and explains the whole idea of the tzaddik. You find it, and again, in the first 12 chapters of Tanya, it deals with the tzaddik, and then the 12th of the Beinani, or again the other different level, tzaddik v'tevel, tzaddik v'rali, and conversely, rasha v'tevel, rasha rali, and then finally culminating with the Beinani in Perikid Beis, and from there on, So the Yetzer Hara becomes like a Yetzer Tov Mamash. It loves HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That is transformation, but that's the Aved of the Tzaddik. So how could you say that similar to the wick which is transformed, again we're using that same parable of the Yanukah, the wick becomes a vehicle to the Shechina, to the Eir Hashem, which resides and burns on top of the Yid. Sharia al Reishei, dwells upon Reishei. Similar to the oil which is consumed into the candle, into the flame. And in this case, everything about the entire body and the Nefesh Bahamas, the animal soul, is consumed to the Eir HaShechina because it performs the mitzvah, not only Machshava Dibur, but also the Ma'aseh. But where's the transformation? And that was the question of the Alter Rebbe last week in last week's class. Again, towards the end of chapter 35, the Alter Rebbe answers over here. Alter Rebbe answered. Again, we spoke about this last week. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech shakil bidvari. So the answer is, again, you can see this in elaboration in the last week's class, that there is the notion of transformation, and then there's another notion, the notion of submission. The Alter Rebbe basically says true transformation is aligned with Aveda the Tzaddik, but yet you can easily say that the candle, the flame, which is the Eir HaShechina, could burn nicely over the wick of man, because for the very reason that in the time when he does the mitzvah, everything stands in complete submission. The Nefesh Bahamis expression, which is expression again in the Talmud. Compellingly, it answers Amen. It gets involved, despite that its attributes, the character of the Beinoni has not been transformed, has not been transmuted, but yet at the time that he does the mitzvah, there is a expression of submission to the godly reality. A total submission to the godly reality. And Alter Rebbe concluded, therefore there's no prevention of the Ashras HaShechina, the divine presence in the body of man, and at this time, which means the Koach and Nefesh HaChayunis, which is invested in other words, the vitalizing soul, which is invested in the implementation and the actualization of this mitzvah, is at that moment of the performance of the mitzvah consumed into the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and becomes one with a true and absolute unity. And this is where we left off. Again, you can see this, and again a bit more of elaboration in last week's class. So a total transformation of the person, that the lev, the heart, the character, the attributes of man has been completely transformed. True, that's the way that the tzaddik. He got rid of the Yetzer Hara. Again, there's different levels of tzaddikim, tzaddik v'tevel, tzaddik v'rali, but he made an important indent in the Yetzer Hara, or again tzaddik gomor, which is completely transformed as Yetzer Hara, transformed, transmuted as Yetzer Hara, as opposed to the Beinoni, which the Yetzer Hara is in full tech, but yet, and when we deal with from the perspective of complete, absolute submission to the oneness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and which is again Sheira al Reishei, which resides over the Yid. At the time when he performs the mitzvah, it becomes the animal soul, or this vitalizing animal soul, which is invested in the performance and the actualization of this mitzvah. At that moment, it's completely consumed into the light of Hashem. And how much is it united? It says B'yichud Kam, with an absolute unity. And here the Alter Rebbe continues, V'ayidei Zen, through this actual mitzvah. So first of all, we said every Yid is involved in mitzvahs on a constant basis. A Yid does mitzvahs on a constant basis, on a daily basis. Our connection to Kodesh Baruch Hu is not from Yom Kippur, nor from Shabbos to Shabbos. On a daily basis, Yid puts on tefillin and mezuzah and talis, and he comes across the mezuzah, and the talis, the tefillin, like we just said, and all the other mitzvahs where Yid performs. He's learning Torah on a daily basis. So this is all making an impact, again, extracting or establishing the submission of the guf and nefesh bahamis, the guf, the body, and the vitalizing animal soul. And through this, he's mamshech ha'orel kol nefesh ha'yunis shebechol ha'guf. Even though that it's the time when he performs the mitzvah, as opposed to any other time, but yet you're drawing a great light. So first of all, we said again, Yid performs a mitzvah very frequently. It's not once in a while, but yet Alter Rebbe adds over here. through this performance of the mitzvah, you're drawing a ha'ara, a light, to the overall animal soul, overall animal vitalizing soul, which exists with the entire body. In other words, when you're doing the mitzvah, even though it is associated with that particular energy which is coming from this vitalizing soul, which is entering into, again, this energy which is associated with that particular limb which performing the mitzvah. Like we said, an example, the hand, which is doing the mitzvah, it's putting on the straps on the opposite hand when it does the mitzvah. So the hand is the performer of the mitzvah. So it's the energy which exists, which is flowing through the hand again, which is doing the mitzvah. Yet together with that, you're drawing a general ha'ara, a general light to the overall nefesh chayunos, this one vitalizing soul, which ultimately is the vitalizing soul of the entire body. So you're making an indent in the core level, in other words, in the general, because it's one nefesh chayunos again. So even though at that time it's namely is about the energy which is investing in that particular limb which is performing the mitzvah, but it's one nefesh chayunos, it's one animal soul, and therefore you're drawing a light to that very animal soul which exists within the entire body, not only in the limb which does the mitzvah. And then he says more so, not only in the nefesh chayunos and the vitalizing soul of the entire body. In other words, the soul energy which enters, which vitalizes the entire body. But he says again, but they're focusing on the nefesh chayunos, on the vitalizing soul. But he adds more, b'kamal guf hagashmi, on the entire physicality of the body, the entire body, the physical body. Together with the fact that he's not a tzaddik, together with the fact that there's no inner transformation, but the light of the Shekhinah, this ha'ara, to the entire nefesh chayunos, because it's a yid which performs mitzvahs. and at the time of the performance of the mitzvah, like we said, it's a yichud gomer, it's a complete unity with the godly light and the godly flame and the godly fire to the Shekhinah, the divine presence. But more so again, it is as we said, despite that there by the tzaddik it's about complete transformation, as opposed to here that it comes through, it's more an expression of submission, but yet you still have the complete Eir Hashem which resides on the nefesh bahamis and the guf. And here we add again not only on the particular limb but the entire guf and the energy of the entire nefesh chayunos, or a ha'ara to the nefesh chayunos, the entire nefesh chayunos, the entire vitalizing soul which exists within the entire body. And here he adds on the entire physical body. But he adds the words of B'chinas makif milmayla v'remesher ad raglo in a more encompassing manner. Again, he uses the word makif again, because by a tzaddik it's something which is not makif, not on all, in more of a encompassing manner. By a tzaddik it's a complete transformation, meaning to say the Eir Hashem penetrates through and through the whole existence of the tzaddik, because like we said, the tzaddik ain't Yitzhar Hara, he doesn't have Yitzhar Hara, or more like it says Nazir, the Yitzhar Hara became like Yitzhar Teiv Mamash. V'ahavtas Hashem lekecha, he loves HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chol levavcha, with all his heart, even with the Yitzhar Hara. So then it's not makif, which means apparently it seems like this perfect picture that it enters into the limb, into the nefesh chayunos, and then it vitalizes the entire. It brightens up the entire animal soul, vitalizing animal soul, and then he says it has an impact in the entire body. So this seems like a complete perfect person, completely one who's a conduit to the Eir Hashem. But he adds the word makif, milmaylo. You see in the final line in the page memches in the original text, it's makif milmaylo. So one has Mireshev ad raglo, from head to toe. Like we just said, it's kol haguf, nefesh chayunos, which of the entire guf, or gam ala guf, and the physicality of the body from head to toe. But he has the word makif, because again you're not dealing with the tzaddik. With the tzaddik, the Eir Hashem is penetrated because everything about him is alakus, it's godliness. As opposed to the Beinani, he still has a Yetzer Hara. It doesn't prevent Ein Zu Miniah, like we learned last week. It doesn't prevent the Asheras HaShechina on the entire system of the Beinani. But you can't say that it penetrated. You can't say it permeated and inculcated the whole system of the Beinani, because he still has the Yetzer Hara. Nefesh Bahamis is in full tact. Yet the accomplishment, there's no compromise on the accomplishment. So what would be the key word to reconcile the two? The answer is because makif mamayla. It's more an encompassing. It's more in an encompassing fashion, as opposed to a penetrating fashion. The Hashem doesn't pervade. It doesn't penetrate, meaning to say, because it's not the whole metzius of this Beinani, he still has enough Shabbat. So therefore, the accomplishment is 100% there. Like he says, B'yichud Gomor. There's no lacking in the accomplishment, but it's still makif. It's still more, again, on a way of surrounding, or not surrounding, more in an encompassing manner as opposed to a penetrating manner. Despite its Mereshev Adragov, head to toe. Look at the Yulashon of the Yenuko. It speaks about the importance of oiling the wick, which is the body of man, and the oiling is coming through Dafka, through Torah mitzvahs. And he says why? Because we have to be focused on the Shechinta, the Shari al Reisha, and the Shechinta which dwells upon the Reish. And he says that, and again, that's the way he explains and translates a Chacham Einu Bereisha. That the Chacham focuses on the Shechina which Shari al Reisha, which resides on the Reish, on the head of the Yid. And therefore, the Shlomo Melech is basically telling us, like he concludes the Zayir then there, that Shlomo Melech Tzavach, he's screaming, means to say, it's constantly demanding V'shem Nareishcha Al Yachsa, never lack any oil. Which is the oil? Is the Torah mitzvahs, the learning Torah and the mitzvahs that he does. And that maintains the Arz HaShechina. Again, this is the beer, this is all the explanation to the Yenuka. But Alter Rebbe points out, if you see the Lashon in the Yenuka, which again took the moment to recap encapsulate the entire Vart of the Yenuka, which the Alter Rebbe is here in this Perek explaining. But if you look at the Lashon of the Yenuka, it says Shechinta Sharia Al Reisha. It doesn't say Bir Reisha, but Al Reisha doesn't say Bir Reisha, would connote that it penetrates the entire system starting from the Reish. But in this case, we're dealing with the Beinani. Therefore, even though the accomplishment, there's no lacking in the accomplishment, is bereish v'adraglov, even again the nefesh bahamis, which is mechayiv to the closest nefesh chayunas shebechol aguf, like the lashon over here, the expression here is, and also the guf agashmi, and he has bereish v'adraglov, but yet it's still bechinas makif, for the reason we just mentioned, and that's what it says. Al means on top. And similarly, we find the same lashon, akol be'aschir asar shchita shari. When 10 yidden come together, it's akol be'asar shchita. Or just, I don't know if the word akol, but it's namely what he's saying, that when you have a minyan, 10 people, you're looking for tzaddikim with 10 people. You're not looking for tzaddikim. In halacha, there's no constitution. The 10 people which comprise a minyan, make up a minyan, have to be tzaddikim. It says the whole point of having 10 people together, it's because you're trying to draw that shechina, which is Sharia dwells when 10 yidden come together. So apparently, aren't you looking for 10 yidden, which you can classify them as tzaddikim, because these tzaddikim, the Shechina, the Eira Shechina, has penetrated their whole metzius. Again, they have completely transformed the animal soul. Like they say, the Yitzhahara becomes like a Yitzhar Tev, it becomes an ally. It becomes like a Yitzhar Tev Mamash, which is again the extreme, the quintessential tzaddik, the tzaddik, the Gomor. So wouldn't we be looking at that if you're looking for the Shechinta Shari? He says no. When you have 10 people come together right away, Shechinta Shari. Because when you're dealing in a way of makif, you're dealing with al reisha, and therefore it's irrelevant what kind of yidden they are. For that matter, tzibur is an acronym of tzaddikim, beinanim, urushanim. So within the tzibur itself, you have this, within the word tzibur itself says you're not looking for tzaddikim per se, because you're dealing with something makif, and mitzad makif, there's no problem. In other words, because you're dealing with al reisha, so it doesn't matter who the 10 people are. Now the Alter Rebbe concludes this this 35th chapter, and he says this seems to be mind-provoking a little bit, because that tells you that when I do a mitzvah, I'm drawing the Eir Hashem. The other person does a mitzvah is drawing the Eir Hashem. I mean, God here, because I did the mitzvah, He is that fire which is burning in the wick, and then He's another fire which is burning in another person's wick. When He's performing the mitzvah, again, He's oiling His wick. When the other person oils that wick, so you have another Eir Shechina Sheira on him, on her, and another person, on every single year. That seems to allude to the fact that there's kind of many Shechinas. And there's only one, Hashem Echad. Divine presence is only one. So how does it really work? That you say that there's the Eir Shechina on the person who learns Torah and does mitzvahs, then the other person, again, there's another Eir Shechina upon him, another Shechina upon her, and another place in another place, another domain, there's another Eir Shechina. So apparently this seems to allude to multiplicity, and in the end we're talking about the Hashem, which is Hashem Echad, Hashem is Echad Chas v'Shalom, God forbid to align God with multiplicity. Hashem Echad, Hashem is one. So the Alter Rebbe points out over here, concludes the page, there's not a question. We're going to jump the gun over here, just explain, for example. You have the sun shining, and it shines into many homes. Does it mean there's many suns? Absolutely not. Because it's shining in this home, then it's shining in the next home, and then shining in someone else's home. So you see, oh wow, there's 3 suns because there's 3 homes which are illuminated by the sun. Foolish way of understanding things. It is one sun which is constantly shining. The question is, did you open your curtain? Or your shade, or you didn't open your shade? And if you open your shade, that very sun will come in. But there's one sun shining. It's like you tune into a certain program at a certain station. Not when you opened up that radio, that station, which uses a parable. It's not necessarily the best information we hear, but let's say it's an important information, especially a Torah information associated with Torah. It's not when you opened up that station did the person start giving the class. He's giving the class all the time. You tuned into his class. The famous, I believe, is the Ruzhiner, or the Kotzker, I think, of the Kotzker. He says, "Where's God?" And he answered, "Wherever you let him in, that's where he is." And therefore, it's not a contradiction. Chas v'shalom, there's no multiplicity over here, or there's no change in the Eir Hashem to say, you know what, now I am, now I'm not. I am all the time. The question is, did you open your shade or your curtain to let me in? And there's no difference, there's no shinu, there's no change in the godly reality and presence. Before I keep the mitzvah, after I keep the mitzvah, the godly reality and presence is one. And there is no change. And Yeshem Leishanisi. Yet when you let him in, it's a different story. It's when you letting him in, so then you let him in, the other party lets him in, and the other party lets him in. There's no shinu, there's no change in the Eir Shechina. It changes in you. And that's what he concludes. He says, whenever we say we draw the light of the Shechina, which is the Gilui in Tzad Baruch Hu, which is the revelation of the infinite light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's not a change within God, God forbid. And there's no many multiplicity, like it says at all. Kedisa b'Sanhedrin, like it's brought in the Gemara, the tractate Sanhedrin. The Omar le'ahu minu l'Rebbe Gamliel, there was an heretic which approached Rebbe Gamliel and told him, Amritu, you say kol beyasar shchinta sharia. Within every 10 people come together, they draw the divine presence. Kama shchinta yislachu. How many shchinas do you have? Here a minion, you draw the shchina, and here another minion, you draw the shchina. There's thousands and tens of thousands of minyanim. Thousands of minyanim. And every minion draws the shchina. So he asked him, how many shchinas do you have? It seems like you have thousands of gods or shchinas of divine presence. And he answered him, and he answered this very the very example of the light of the sun, which enters into many windows. There's one sun. Did you open the shade? That's what a minion does. It draws the Eir HaShechina, which is there. Ani Hashem Leishonisi, there's no change and there's no multiplicity. It's one Shechina. It's that you gathering 10 people together is like opening the shades to let the sun in. And in this case as well, that every time a Yid does a mitzvah and he oils that wick, it says the Shechina is there and waiting to dwell upon the Yid. Every single Yid. And our job is just to make sure to focus, to understand the responsibility we have, who we are hosting, who is ready to reside upon us on a constant basis. He just needs us to oil the wick, which the oiling comes through Torah, through learning Torah, and doing mitzvahs. And everyone who does it allows the Shekhinah to enter. One Shekhinah, one fire, one God. But the oiling of this wick is us allowing ourselves and opening again those that are the opportunity to host that Eir HaShechina. V'maskil yovin, and the understander would understand that there's no contradiction to the notion of Hashem Echad. As we again just explained, with this, the Alter Rebbe concludes the entire chapter 35. That with a bit of an understanding, we understand that there is no contradiction to the Ani Hashem Leishonisi and Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, the oneness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Have a wonderful evening.